Welcome to the podcast, Sharon. Thank you so much for coming. It's a pleasure and honor to have you here.
Thank you so much. Excited for the conversation.
Great. Sharon Vinderine, founder and CEO of parent-tested, parent-approved PTPA, has played a pivotal role in shaping consumer trust and transparency for nearly 2 decades. The PTPA Seal of Approval is one of the most sought-after endorsements, trusted by millions of consumers when making purchasing decisions. Under Sharon's leadership, PTPA has solidified its position as a leading authority in brand trust, representing products that deliver on their promises and setting the gold standard for authenticity in the marketplace. Sharon has attracted global partnerships with companies like SC Johnson, VTech, and PG, who leverage her deep understanding of consumer trust to strengthen their relationships with families. The PTPA seal reflects more than just a product's quality. It embodies the brand's commitment to delivering on its promises. A recognized authority on consumer behavior, Sharon addresses challenges like fake reviews and building genuine consumer trust. Her expertise has made her a trusted voice in major publications like Entrepreneur magazine and on major networks and shows such as The Steve Harvey Show, MSNBC, and CNN, with over 300 television appearances. Very impressive. Her entrepreneurial journey includes co-founding Canada's first wireless internet company, which earned the title of Canada's hottest startup. She is also the recipient of the RBC Women Entrepreneur Award and the Silver Stevie Award for a female, Entrepreneur of the Year and Women of Inspiration Award. Very, very impressive.
Thanks. I feel like I need to make wallpaper out of this to remind myself of this stuff every morning.
That's excellent. Sharon is a sought-after keynote speaker, having presented at high-profile conferences, including UNFI Innovation Showcase, Shopper Marketing Forum, and The Gathering. Her insights on consumer behavior, transparency, and authenticity resonate with brands looking to build lasting trust with their audiences. Sharon resides in Toronto with her family. In her spare time, she enjoys reading, meditation, fitness, and is an avid pickleball player. She holds a double honors degree in mass communications and political science.
Oh my God, that was a mouthful.
That's awesome. I mean, like one of my favorite words is authenticity, and I see it everywhere there. And it just, I got a sense of, we've come across each other over the years, but I get a sense of like, that's who you are. And it's a great way of being in my humble opinion.
Yeah, I feel like it's the only way to be, right? Otherwise, we're all exact replicas of one another, kind of like robots, just saying what you're supposed to be saying versus being honest about your experiences.
Yeah, and it's great because you're a great leader, and other people can see from what you share and your experiences, and look at themselves and look at their lives and create the same things for themselves that they want to create. So I do agree. There's a lot of copycats out there. I think everybody has, I've said this often, a lot of special gifts. And it's nice to see people step into, what their special gift is or what their area is or who they are. I think when you're your best self when you are yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
When you're yourself and when you are open to sharing those experiences with others, because that's ultimately when you're making the biggest difference in the world. And in terms of how people go about their day, what they're inspired by. Like I always talk about, whenever I post anything, it's always about Richard Branson. He has a book called Losing My Virginity. And it's like story after story after story of failure. And people think of Richard Branson and they look at him going, oh my God, this guy just got lucky. He's a success story. Everything he does turns to gold. And then you read what it took for him to get lucky. And you're like, okay, that is the best way to keep inspired, learning from other people's mistakes and being authentic and honest about it.
That is so great. And you bring up such a good point because in today's world, especially on the internet, on social media, and we're taught as kids, like, don't bring up negative things. And, everybody sees all the great things.
Yeah.
They see successful people. but they do not see the sleepless nights, the failures, the crying yourself to sleep.
Yep.
The worrying about, when I started my business, worrying about where my next dollar was going to
Yep.
come from. I slept on a sofa in my dad's apartment. These are the things that people don't see. They don't
Yep.
see the struggles and the things that you have to go through to get to that other side.
Yeah.
And often the people that do create success, I say it like this: they're just sort of losers who never quit, really, because they lose, and they keep going, and then eventually they have a successful outcome.
You're absolutely right.
If you look to individuals that have created mass success, you can see a lot of failures along the way if you look real closely.
Yeah, and I think you would be hard pressed to find a successful entrepreneur who would tell you they've had no failures along the way. And I think if they told you they had no failures along the way, I would claim that they are liars, because I have yet to meet that person or hear about that person.
Agreed.
Yeah.
It's either they don't see things for what they are, they're full of
Yes, exact. That is exactly
Yeah.
it. Yeah. There's plenty of those.
So this amazing mindset you have, where did this start? Did you have a mentor or your family? Like where did you get this mindset that you have?
So I come from two entrepreneurs. My dad has probably been in every industry you could possibly imagine. Lots of failures, a bunch of successes, but I've seen that roller coaster ride. So I guess I probably picked up a lot of it from him. He also has no filter, which I probably picked up from him as well. Maybe I've added a touch of a filter. I know, and the older they get, the less their filter seems to diminish. So maybe I have a bit more of a filter, but what I realized is, and I'm still learning this, I am better off saying what I mean and meaning what I say and being as honest and authentic as possible, because I think it's just going to get me further. Otherwise, I could spend all my life being afraid and being that person who is not saying what they mean and therefore not getting where I want to get.
Yeah, it's like clear and direct communication.
Yep.
And you're right, and I used to think about this a lot in relationships when I was younger. You'd go out on a date or something, talking obviously pre-marriage.
Yeah.
And you're trying to put on you're trying to put your best foot forward, but what you end up doing is you end up attracting individuals that like the person that you're portraying yourself to be, and then that becomes spinning your wheels and a complete waste of time.
Yep.
Right. Whereas
100%.
whether it's in business or in a relationship, whatever it is, being direct in your communication is going to get you, as you said so eloquently, like where you want to go.
Yeah.
And it stops you from spinning your wheels. And I think today that if we had more of this in the world would be much more productive. We'd see much more productive outcomes.
Yeah.
And people getting to where they want to go instead of, taking one step forward, two steps back, et cetera. There'll be challenges, but at least we're not going to be our own challenge.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think I wish they taught that in school, because
Me
this
too.
next generation of kids, they're influenced by what they're seeing on social media, which we know is just this perfect depiction of an imperfect scenario. But that's kind of how they're gauging themselves, their confidence, their lives, and they feel like, oh, if it's perfect for that person, you and I as adults have the ability to recognize that a scene has been set up or someone has been paid a lot of money and given free products to make something look amazing, whereas our kids don't necessarily have those insights yet and are growing up not feeling like they should be authentic, but feeling like they should be perfect, which ultimately just leads to so many mental health related issues. So back to my original point, I wish they taught this in school.
I agree. I think I couldn't agree more. And it's, the world is set up today, I feel like, for people to be average and for people to, fit into this mold.
Yep.
And this is why I do this show. It's my way of giving back and having amazing people like yourself on here to share the message of, it's okay to be who you are. It's not okay. It's great to be who you
Yep.
are.
Yeah.
Because, other individuals are going to learn from that and vice versa. Each person will learn from one another, and they can take their success to like whole other levels by doing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting that you're so much like this in the business that you chose to go in, because it goes hand in hand, right? You're like an industry leader in telling the truth, in terms of branding, letting people know what's authentic, what's real, and what's fake or not real. So it goes hand in hand with actually like who you are. I'm not surprised why you've created so much success, because it's true to you. It's true to who you are.
It is. Thank you. Yeah, I think.
Tell me a bit about it, about the business, how it got started.
Sure.
What got you into it?
Sure. So when I was a new mom, I had 2 under 2, which was obviously a handful. And I was running out and buying every product under the sun to make my life a bit simpler. And I was choosing these products based on, it's really expensive. Okay, for this first child, I'm willing to spend anything. Or the packaging looked pretty. And I would bring it home, and these products ultimately would fail in terms of delivering on expectations. So what I found was I was calling all my friends who are at the same life stage saying, okay, what swing changed your life? Whatever it was. And my friends' guidance ultimately was always the best guidance. So I thought to myself, if only I could take 20 friends with me shopping every single time I needed a new baby product. And that's kind of where the idea came into play. If we could create some sort of symbol of trust that you could go into a store and purchase a product because you saw that symbol of trust and you knew that your peers had already tested this and given their honest feedback, well, that just now simplifies shopping. So that was the whole concept of the seal of approval that I created, parent tested, parent approved. And then what I wanted to do is I grew up in a household where charity was one of the most important things that we were taught. And my dad, when I was very young, thank God he's still around, but he was terminally ill. They actually gave him a 6-month period. And he had written me a letter. And in that letter, he had said to me, I want you to know that the most important thing you're going to be able to do in your life is leave people better than the way you found them. I'm paraphrasing. And always make sure you are giving back. So parent tested, parent approved. The other unique part of it is not only are we trying to help simplify shopping for consumers, we give products for free. We've given away over 1 million products to consumers across $1 million worth of products to consumers across North America. So if you are one of our testers, I could be sending you a $1,000 Dyson fan or a $2,000 mattress. So that's the way I'm ensuring that I am kind of making sure that I am proactively having a positive impact and kind of fulfilling that, I don't know what to call it, but that guiding principle that my dad kind of laid the foundation for when I was really young. So I feel like, the company is personally fulfilling to me. That was a really long answer to your question.
That's a great answer. And I love long answers because, that's where people can understand your thought process and learn from it. So, no, that was absolutely a great answer.
Yeah. So it's a fun company. And ultimately, we get to connect consumers with brands. Brands get the honest opinion of these consumers. Lots of products don't earn our seal. And we just had a brand, actually. They are a huge multinational corporation. They manufacture thousands of products. They're getting into the infant space. And they gave us a monitor to test. And it is a little bit complicated, but it's really cool. It measures all kinds of things on a baby. Ultimately, the results were pretty negative, and I had to call them to let them know they had not earned the seal. And I didn't hear back from them for a couple weeks, and I was pretty anxious. I felt really bad. I'm like, have I ruined the relationship? Like, honesty is going to be the most important thing I can offer.
Yeah.
And then they got back to me after 2 weeks saying, we're so sorry we had not responded. We took all of the data we got from your consumers, took it to our R&D team, pulled the product from shelves until we could start making software adjustments to improve this product. And in a few months, we want to come back and retest. But the honest feedback from the consumers was game changing. It allowed them to work on something, improve it before it hit mass market.
Yeah, because what's the impact if you would have, just said, oh, okay, I have this relationship, I'm going to pass it. And then
Yep.
what's the impact to the company if they
Yep.
produce that? And then, there's some, God forbid, it could be, I don't know what the actual
Yep.
product was, but, if it's for a child or something, it could
Exactly.
be dangerous or.
Yeah.
So
And
the
think about it
impact
as a
would be
parent.
so much greater. Like I would want to work with someone like that that's going to come to me, tell me the truth. How do I get better so I can set myself up for success
Yeah.
and have a successful outcome than have someone, pass the buck and then, 2 or 3 months later, 6 months, whatever it is, I'm caught in this trap and I'm SOL.
Yeah.
So,
And as a consumer,
yeah.
imagine you go and buy that product because you saw my seal of approval on it and the product is lousy and then you lose trust
Yeah, then you've lost trust of your clientele,
in what I've
of course.
created, right?
Yeah.
So you're never going to trust us again. So that's a really important component. And it's interesting because we've had clients before where their product hasn't passed, but at the same time, they've received 2 or 3 other awards. So they will always come back to us and say, literally, they will all say the same thing. This has proven to us the authenticity of your program versus these consumer voted type of programs that are all ultimately pay for play where everybody wins. Everyone's a winner.
Yeah, I understand it. That's I don't know if you know me well, but that's not my thing.
Right, right.
I took, I have my son, playing soccer a few
Yeah.
years ago, and his team loses 7-1, and I have to explain to him, Dad, the coach said we all won.
Right.
I said, no, son, I love you very much, but you didn't win.
Yeah.
You lost 7-1, and here's what you need to do, if you want to win next time.
Yep.
These are the things that you need to do. Are you willing to do them? And then you can decide, the child can decide for themselves, but not everybody's a winner in life.
That's exactly it.
Sorry out there, guys.
The
You gotta work
participation
for it.
trophies, right?
You can win, but you got to work for that win.
Yeah.
You have to earn it.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah. Tell me about your growing up in your, in your life. Did you have siblings? Like what shaped you to be the individual that you are today? What experiences in your life shaped you to be who you are today?
So yes, I do have a sibling, a brother who's 6 years younger. But ultimately, I will say my dad's illness growing up was probably the thing that had the biggest impact on my life. Because he was sick for so many years, from when I was 6 until I was about 15. He was very sick on and off. So as his daughter, I was really young, I didn't have money to give back to charities. All I wanted to do was figure out, how am I going to save my dad? How can I help him? So it was, let me find charities, like let me go canvas door to door trying to collect money for cancer. And that really shaped the kind of human being I am. So, charity for me has come in many different forms. When I've had wealth to share, I've shared it. When I've had time to share, I've shared it. But for me, it is such an intricate part of my being, because when I pause on that, I always remember that maybe me giving back somehow, if you're a believer, impacted the fact that my dad is still here today. So it kind of keeps me on my toes. So I would say that's really been the biggest impact on my life.
Yeah, it's amazing. You've got a good heart. Your dad instilled that in you, and to give back to others and contribute to society. And
Yeah.
You've obviously done a great job in doing that.
Thanks. Yeah, I wish there was an easier way for me to have figured that out. But yeah, absolutely.
We all learn in our own way in our
Yep.
own time.
Yeah.
But it certainly sounds like he's displayed a lot of resilience, mental toughness.
100%. Courage.
Yeah, courage,
Yep.
strength.
Yeah. And I take that, and it's been an incredibly important part of how I raised my children. We've done weekly food deliveries to the needy together because they live a sheltered life as far as I'm concerned, in terms of what, you can hear on the news what goes on in the world and how other people live. But until you see it, you're not really impacted by it emotionally. So for us, I remember, I think they were about 11 and 12. And we decided as a family, we wanted to do something together, just it was a Sunday. We had nothing to do. And we're like, how do we use this time to do something positive? So the kids decided they had saved up a bunch of allowance. And what they decided was they were going to go to Tim Hortons. They were going to buy as many coffees and sandwiches as they could. And we were going to drive down Yonge Street and stop at every corner. And anytime they saw a homeless person, they were going to stop and offer them coffee or sandwiches. And I can't even express to you what they felt like after, because they were so emotional about it. They were 11 and 12. But knowing that they had that in their heart and they were happy to go out and like they just felt so... they felt it was such a rewarding experience. They obviously didn't use those words, but they just felt like, oh my God, like, do you think now he's going to feel better? Is he going to be warmer this afternoon because he had a hot coffee? Or, you know, how often do you think he gets sandwiches? Like, it caused them to ask questions. And I think they are choosing to live their lives doing things like that, which, you know, as I've said, I think is such an important component to who we are as human beings, ultimately trying to find ways to be good to others instead of, you know, the hatred that we unfortunately see going on in the world right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what a way to show your kids, you know, I learned so much from kids. Like,
Yeah.
I have 4 kids of my own, and
Yeah.
I love my kids so much. They teach me stuff. Like, I
Yeah.
learn a lot. I had a similar experience. I took my 9-year-old to, we go on a trip. We've been going on a trip every summer. I'm a firm believer in, you know, building experiences.
Yeah.
That's really important for me.
The best.
I collect different things, but of all the things I collect, I always say the most important thing to me are experiences. So I took Jordan this year to San Diego and we went to a baseball game.
Yeah.
And we got these really cool seats last minute, and one of the players gave us a baseball. And so, you know, towards the end of the game, we're leaving, and I see Jordan go up to someone and give him the ball, right? Like a 9-year-old to give another
Wow.
child a ball. I didn't tell him to do it.
Yeah.
I just said, Jordan, why did you do that? He's like, well, I looked at him and he looked like he wasn't having such a great time. So I just, you know, we had these great seats and I had an amazing experience. I just wanted to, you know, for him to have a great night as well. He was
That's
with his dad
amazing.
too. And I wanted him to have a great night. And it's, you know, it's these things that are like, people talk about wins, like your
Yep.
next, you know, vacation or your next nice car, whatever. But that's a win, right? These are wins that money
100%.
cannot buy. No matter how much money you have, you cannot necessarily instill that into your children.
Yeah.
And see your children, you know, displaying leadership behaviors at 9 years old. And it's just, so I get it. It's incredible. And I love seeing, you know, I love seeing my kids and other kids grow, and
Yeah.
they're just so resilient kids, and what they've gone through. Like when we were kids, we didn't go through the things that our children
Yeah.
have gone through.
No.
You know, COVID, what happened, you know, the wars, what's happening in the Middle East, the elections, like all of these different things.
Chaos.
Yeah.
And social media.
It is chaos and social media, right?
Yeah.
That, you know, it's over and over and puts it in your face constantly. So
Yeah. I mean, clearly Jordan has seen behaviors that ultimately made him consider doing that, right? So it became part of his ethos, part of his DNA. But you're right. Our kids, I feel like they actually need more help from us than we ever needed from our parents, because they are surrounded by so much noise where, you know, we'd go out in the morning, go play with our friends, our neighbors, hang out, bike, do all kinds of fun things, build forts. I don't think my kids have ever built a fort. Like, you know, they go out and it's funny to sit in a restaurant and see like people together and everybody's on a device and they're all scrolling through social media and getting their own version of events. But it's yeah, like you said, like they didn't grow up the way we did, which I feel really bad for them.
yeah, the world
missed out.
has changed. Like
Yeah.
something I do for my boys is that I really get them into sports. Because for me, growing up, sports was a huge advantage to me. It gave me self-confidence. It
Yeah.
taught me how to work with other people. It taught me, you know, competitiveness, you know, in terms of like business or whatever. If
Yeah.
it's everybody needs a little bit of an escape, like something to go and watch a football game
Yeah.
or do something or play golf or whatever it is. And I think that's a critical part for children to have these different things of interests, whether it's reading or dancing or going out with their friend, whatever it is, something that they can, when things aren't going great in life and they need a break, or you know, they need something to, hold on to, or to do something with, or
Yeah.
it's great to have these other side things rather than, like you said, being on the, iPad
Yeah.
or phones or et cetera. I'm trying to hold off my youngest as long as I can
Good
with
luck
a
with
phone.
that.
Yeah.
Good luck with that. You know,
He's 9, so I'm doing okay so far.
9,
But
that's impressive. He's
yeah,
not on it yet.
yeah. So no TVs in the rooms to watch TV and
Right.
stuff like that. But it's always a work in progress.
It is. And I wasn't an athlete growing up. I'm certainly not an athlete now. That gene skipped my generation. But my husband and I took up pickleball a year ago. We're now obsessed. But he played on so many teams. My husband, he played hockey. He played so many different sports. And when we started playing pickleball, we're always playing doubles. So you're always playing as a team with someone. And it was interesting. He came home and he's like, I can tell, because you're always playing with different people. He's like, I can completely tell who played team sports growing up, because they actually know how to play as a team versus those individuals who've had to compete, on a one-to-one basis, because they don't know how to work together with others. So to your point, your kids being involved in lots of different team sports is great, because it does teach them those skill sets that you mentioned that are so vital in life.
Yeah, it's critical. Teamwork, competitiveness, giving it all you got.
Yeah.
Learning to deal with failure, learning to deal with success. It goes on and on.
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
leadership. My son Jordan he's exhibited some great leadership. He plays competitive baseball, so it's nice to see these things.
For
And it
sure.
evolves later on in life, right? These foundations of success that we learn as a child, we carry them and we take them with us later on in life.
Yeah.
But it's like I was talking about this yesterday. Most people, we're always taught to look forward. Don't look back, look forward.
Right.
But if you don't look back, you're never going to know how far you've come and what got you there
Yeah.
in the first place.
Yep.
What are these foundations? And it goes back to this authenticity conversation. Like, what about me is unique? How did I deal with each circumstance? How did I deal with each failure? How did I deal with success? How did I deal with that to now be where I am today? And what do I have inside of me that's already there that I might have forgotten is there because I never look back? What's
Yeah.
inside of me that I already have that I don't necessarily need? I already have it that I can now use and get me to where I want to go next time, or
Yeah.
this time, or for this thing.
Yeah.
And I think it's critical to look. Most people are looking outward. I think it's so
Look
important
inward.
to look inward.
Yeah.
Right? We're not taught. That's another thing we're not taught, is to look inside of ourselves to see, again, what skill sets we have that could get us to that next level.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I have a mentor that I work with, and I met him last week, and we were chatting. And 5 minutes into it, he said, Sharon, I have to stop you. I don't know if you recognize how negative you are about every element of yourself, whether it's your business, whether it's your personality, whether it's your anything. He's like, everything is so negative. He's like, we're going to sit down now, and we are going to write out what are the things that you've managed to accomplish to date. And this is going to be your required reading on a daily basis for the next month, because I feel like you focus too much on the future. You don't celebrate the wins, and you don't remember what got you here and the successes. And it's true. Like, to your point, it's, we're focused on, okay, what's next? How am I going to do the next amazing thing? But, when you were reading my bio, I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it's remembering the successes and the skills that allowed you to succeed ultimately, and that are the stepping stones to that next stage. So yeah, we have to spend a lot of time on that inward reflection. And also, I think a lot of us, I'm pretty sure I'm not unique in that negative self-talk, where it's finding a way to remember the positives, Talk to yourself the way I'm trying to train myself to talk to myself the way I would talk to a best friend if I was giving them guidance. And again, I feel like I wish these are skill sets. They actually incorporate it into school curriculums. They have learning strategies courses. They need to have confidence building courses and leadership building courses, because that is so much more important than some of the stuff that they are teaching in schools today.
Hey, I'm with you. This might be a business, a leadership training business,
Yep.
for children. But
Yep.
I'm right with you. And you have a great mentor, because I had a very similar situation to you, and I got myself a mentor as well.
Yep.
And it's the exact same advice he gave me.
Yeah.
And I think it's like everything has a double-sided coin, because on one side of that coin, driven people they drive themselves and they create success and they do all these things, right? And they keep driving themselves and they seek perfection. But there's never going to be perfection. There's no such thing as perfection.
Yeah.
You can chase it, but the problem with perfectionism is you've created a standard that's impossible to live up to. And then you can beat yourself up because you
All
haven't
the
measured up. You should be here, you're here, and you should be there,
Yeah.
and you're here. So it's critical to realize that you're just not going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And this is more about what gives you the best odds and the best chances to create the result you're looking for, right? The result you're looking for.
Yeah.
And what gives you the best chance is really being your own best friend, is knowing what you have, knowing what you can do,
Yeah.
and using those skills to get you to that that next step
Yeah.
along the way.
Being kind to yourself.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And I think that is it's like the simplest thing to consider. And it is the hardest thing to do.
For entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I struggled with this for years.
Yeah.
For years.
Yeah.
And my mentor, Tim Grover, who's amazing, I learned so much from him over the years. He had me do the exact same thing. I want you to write down every win you've ever had.
Yeah.
And this is your new study guide.
Yeah.
This is what you need to remember: who you are, what you've overcome, the skills you use to get there. And, society tells us that we have to be different. We need to be this, or we're not going to change. We already are who we are.
Right.
But it's inside of us already.
Yeah.
There's nothing to get to. It's already there.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of using it. When am I going to use this skill? When am I going to use that skill? When do I not use this skill or that skill? And it's like a great analogy is you've got a toolbox with all these skills. What tool am I going to use for this situation, for that situation?
I 100%
So
agree.
it's just being responsible for who you already are, essentially.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I used to have this pet peeve. I probably still do, but there was somebody in my life at a point where all she did was say, "Oh, you're so lucky. Oh, must be nice." And I mean, they're no longer a part of my life, because when I made a decision that ultimately, first of all, while I believe in luck, I believe that luck comes very often. I'm not going to say always, but luck, especially as an entrepreneur, you said this at the beginning, it's very much related to how hard you are going to work in order to come upon a lucky situation, right? So we all have all of these different skill sets, and it is focusing in on what are the strengths, what are the best skill sets we have, and now how do we execute on those, right? Versus spending time either complaining or thinking about our past and reliving it and using it as an excuse for why we can't go forward. Woe is me. You can spend all day feeling sorry for yourself. It's not going to get you where you want to go. And it's people around you, if you think it's going to garner sympathy, they're not going to feel bad for you. Like, ultimately, you are responsible for yourself, for your life. I hope luck has played some part in it, but you kind of, and I say this to my kids all the time, like, you are responsible for your destiny. Like, I'm not saying I don't believe in fate, but I think just in case it doesn't exist and it's not all preordained for you, do all of the things you need to do in order to succeed and have the life that you envision. And that's not necessarily you want to be a multimillionaire and drive the fanciest car. It is you want X, Y, and Z out of your life. do the hard work now in order to be able to see those results. You love experiences. I think that's amazing because as we get older, we recognize the Porsche is lovely. The experiences are lovelier because those are what ultimately stay with you at the end, right? And throughout your life, and they drive you. So how do you kind of just build a life that allows you to just have amazing experiences along the way?
Yeah, it's really great you say that. And, it is all about responsibility. There's a saying, the truth will set you free. But I think the real saying should be, and I've heard people say this, at first it'll piss you the F off, and then it'll set you free. Because a lot of people come to me and they say, what's the most important thing about success? And the real answer is, well, there is not there's a million things about it. But if I were to say one thing that's extremely important, it's honesty with yourself, right? Because if you can't be honest with yourself and take responsibility for every single thing, then you can't get better because you're just stuck in the same pattern over and over again. If you're responsible for it, well, you can fix it, right? The same person's responsible could change the behavior or change the actions or change the thoughts or change the beliefs and create a different result.
Yeah.
But if it's luck or you're responsible or he's responsible, well, I'm stuck. I'm a victim to the circumstance.
Yeah.
I've got no hope, no chance. It's just I'm stuck to whatever the excuse is.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, you can have success or you can have your excuses, but you can't have both.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So-
I am I'm probably, if I had to think of my skill sets in terms of management, I have very little tolerance for, I guess, I'm a victim or I have 101 excuses as to why I can't do things, which is probably why my first hire should have been someone in HR because they'd be better at that. So as an entrepreneur, and this is definitely a flaw that I'm trying to work on, but I kind of almost, when I'm hiring people, I almost expect that I want to be hiring a team of entrepreneurs because in my mind, that means they are multifaceted. They are very driven. They can pivot if necessary. So my expectations of people are probably too high. And, as a business owner, it's trying to learn what are people's capabilities. So what I will say is I just won't accept the excuse, woe is me, because you are ultimately responsible for your outcomes, right?
Yeah, and that's so important in a business, right? It's like I look at sports. I use sports a lot as an analogy. And it's, the best coaches are the coaches that get each individual to do their job.
Yeah.
Because if they miss an assignment, like let's say it's football and you miss a tackle, your assignment is or it's a block.
Yep.
Well, then the whole play blows up.
Yeah.
And then what happens if the play blows up? Well, you could end up losing the game.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing in life, right? Like each individual has an assignment. They have a responsibility. Like in your business, there's probably a sales aspect. There's a management aspect. There's a financial aspect. There's a leadership aspect. If any of those things falter along the way,
Yep.
Then all of a sudden that's where you have, an
Chaos.
issue with your business. Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's critical to, I find the best leaders and the best business owners and the best coaches are the individuals that, stress process. Like, here's what we're putting in place. This is what you need to do. Don't think about all the other stuff. Just focus on your one task that you need to do.
Yeah.
Now, if you have a leadership position, the individual has to obviously, manage a lot of different things, a lot of different aspects of the business. But you nailed it when you said capability. Like, what is this individual capable of? Because, person X might not be capable of what person Y is capable of. So that's what I had a hard time with as well, because my standard is high, but then I realize I have to keep it high for myself, but then be understanding and meet people where they are, which is one of my biggest idiosyncrasies, meeting people where they are. Because I have a standard and an ideal of other individuals, how they should be, but that's not a good thing. Because, they may be weak in this area, but they could be brilliant in another area.
Yeah. It's the hardest thing.
Yeah. I was reading a really interesting article a few weeks ago by Bill Gates. And Bill Gates said that when he looks to solve a complex problem, the first person that he looks for is the laziest person in the room. So I'm thinking, like, why is that?
Interesting.
Yeah, like interesting, right? Looking for the laziest person in the room. He said, well, it's simple. Lazy people know how to solve complex problems really quickly because they're lazy. They don't want to deal with that. So they find the easiest solution, and they're great at finding simple solutions because they've been trained for years and years and years of taking the easy way out.
Right.
So they may have a solution that I didn't even think of. Because,
They'll
Bill
get
Gates saying
creative to
this,
get
like,
out of
I'm
it.
not lazy. I always doing extra work. And this is, so it's just interesting that everybody has a skill set that you may not be aware of and you're not even realizing or noticing. And then as a leader, if you're missing out on a critical skill set, that could impact you.
Yeah.
So it's just interesting, this way of thinking, this dynamic of learning from, individuals that they don't, how can I put it? They don't dismiss anything. They're always thinking, they're always noticing, the things that other people don't notice.
Yeah.
And that could be like a home run in a business. Like if you notice a skill set someone has that you didn't previously notice and it wasn't being utilized properly, it's huge.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And I think it's a common problem that entrepreneurs face. I think, we are all, we all have some common character traits, I think. And, very often when I'm talking to entrepreneurs, we're all like, oh my God, yes, if only I had an HR person, because that person could help me better see how to manage this person's skill sets, make sure they're in the right role, set expectations, manage conversations, because sometimes, when there are those tough conversations, you're also, as an entrepreneur, you're like, I don't get it. Why can't you just get it done? You need a certain finesse that I feel like is learned over time, is definitely not an implied skill set with entrepreneurs.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
I asked my wife once, I said, if you could describe me in one word, how would you describe me? So she goes, easy, on. I'm like, on? What do you mean on? She's like, you're always on.
Yeah.
You're always like, if I woke you up at 3 a.m. in the morning and I said, you have a client waiting downstairs, you'd get showered within 5 minutes and be ready to present and boom.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just everybody has like a unique, skill set to them. And it's interesting but entrepreneurs they're very
unique breeds.
Unique and almost I'm going to say this, but not to be taken at a context. They are not normal in any way.
Yeah.
They're absolutely abnormal. They're abnormal in their thinking, the way they see things that other people can't see.
Yep.
They see, I was reading a book once called The Spirituality of Success. And it was a very interesting guy that was a sales trainer that worked with the greatest entrepreneurs in the United States. And he said the one common denominator of all of those entrepreneurs was that they all took massive risk, but they took it because they didn't see it as risk.
Right.
But a normal individual would look at this and say, this person is insane. People like betting their entire life savings on one business deal. I knew of an entrepreneur that now has a business is worth several $100 million, that he got the money by gambling, going to Las Vegas and putting like, $50,000 on red in a card game in roulette, and ended up winning it, and then used that money and propelled himself to a business. Like if you told someone that story, they would think that's insane.
Yeah.
But it almost is an insanity, but in the best way possible.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
no, you're right.
It's interesting.
It really is, and so I have ADHD. I always knew that I had it, but I formally.
I think we all have some form of it.
Exactly. So I went and got formally diagnosed because someone challenged me on it. They're like, you're just throwing around this term. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go get tested because I needed to get one of my kids tested. So yeah, Sharon, off the charts ADHD. But there was a great article that I contributed on in the Toronto Star years ago. And it was, how I leverage ADHD as my superpower. Like, yes, it could be my excuse for all of the reasons that I couldn't accomplish what I wanted to accomplish. Or it could be my uniqueness that allows me to see things from a completely different perspective and almost block out maybe the ramifications because I'm too busy going from idea to idea, which drives my team crazy. But nevertheless, it allows me to put something out there, not weigh the risk, see it as a potential opportunity, and that is my superpower. So I agree with you. I think all entrepreneurs have something that drives us, that makes us different than others. And I mentor a lot of entrepreneurs, like young startups. And, you know, they'll very often ask me, like, what is it that you think makes you successful or can make me successful? And I always give them the same answer. Number one, there's no quick win. Like, if you think you're going to be that unicorn, good luck to you. We're probably not the right pairing because there's not many unicorns in the world. Number two, you need to be incredibly passionate about what you do because being an entrepreneur is the craziest roller coaster ride like you could possibly imagine being on. It's like there's highs, but I feel like there are so many more lows, and you need to be able to have that mental capacity to be able to deal with the ups and downs of it. And the third thing is find something unique about you. What is your differentiator? What is going to make you an amazing entrepreneur? And focus on those three things in order to determine, is being an entrepreneur a good idea for me? Or am I better suited to work for someone or an organization because I have a very unique skill set and I know I can excel in that one unique skill set?
That's great advice. And I especially love number two because it's like to love and have passion for what you do.
Yeah.
Because you're spending so much time in work.
Yeah.
Right? If we think of the hours that we spend in work, it's a ton of time. We take it away from our kids, our spouses, our friends, our family. And then it'll also get you through the tough times when things aren't great, right? Where people want to give up and quit. And you know, it'll because you love it so much, you'll be resilient.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible advice.
Yeah, it's
really
when
good
I'm
advice.
sitting there at 5:30 in the morning when I start my day at my computer or at the gym, that is what is getting me through. Like, that is my mantra. Like, I'm doing this because I believe in it and I know I can make an impact. And I haven't made even like the smallest dent in terms of the impact I want to make, but I know that I have it in me to make that happen, and I just have to keep, you know, going at it. And that's kind of the best advice I could give to anyone who is going to be an entrepreneur.
Right. Tell me, how many times do you wake up at like 1, 2, 3 in the morning and have this like amazing idea?
Amazing idea in the middle of the night. I might not have an amazing idea at the middle of the night. I feel like middle of the night is when my anxiety really kicks in. So I wake up every hour going, oh my God, did I think of this? Oh, did I do this?
Yeah.
It's anxiety more than amazing ideas. I feel like the amazing ideas have started coming when I force myself away from my desk. I go for a walk. I'm on my own. And actually, just recently, my husband was going away. My kids were away. And I decided I was going to go away 4 days by myself, disconnect. I removed my Gmail app from my phone. I removed social media. I told my kids, if there's an emergency, first of all, I'm 4.5 hours away from you, so call 911. And then you can check in with me once a day. You know, the Find My on the iPhone is on, so you know I'm safe. But it was a total disconnect. I told my office they couldn't contact me. And it was amazing. Like, I just sat there thinking without being interrupted every single second with a beep or a bleep or a responsibility. And it was like the hotel I stayed at had something called a Zen garden in the back. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's like meant to be. I'd sit in the Zen garden and write notes and ideas. Like, I feel like we all need the opportunity to do things like that, especially as entrepreneurs, because it allows you to remove yourself from the business and actually think about the business, right? And remove the anxieties and just dream for a little bit. So the things that you're doing when you're sleeping or showering because you're not being interrupted by anything, we need to insert more opportunities for that in our lives.
That's so good. I couldn't agree more. And then when you're finally alone, you can be with your thoughts. And, you know, I think my mentor, Tim Grover, did you ever read the book Winning?
No, I don't think I did.
Okay, I'm going to get you a copy. It is the greatest book and the most honest book on success that I've ever read in my life.
Okay.
And he talks a lot about that at night at 1, 2 in the morning when you're alone with your thoughts.
Yeah.
That's when the bombs start coming, right?
Yep.
These are the internal bombs.
Yeah.
And a lot of success is based on being able to exterminate these bombs.
Yeah.
Like, how do we put them out? Because in the end, success is about you against you. It really is.
Yeah.
There's other obstacles in that, but we know how to deal with those obstacles. The real obstacle is yourself. It's yourself against yourself, and your thoughts and these, I know exactly what you're talking about. These self-imposed bombs that come in like, oh, how am I going to get this to this person? Like, oh, I got to get the kids to this, my relationship, this. You got a million thoughts in your head, all the things you have to do. What if this doesn't turn out that way? What if that doesn't? How am I going to handle this? And it's just being able to deal with those thoughts and be able to systematically handle each one of them.
Yeah.
But if you don't have that alone time to do that, it's going to be tough. And the reality is when you have a family, it's hard to have that alone time.
Yeah.
Like, you can't walk out on your husband or your wife or your kids or whatever it is. You have responsibilities, but it's like you have to put that time aside for yourself, a little bit each day.
Yeah.
And I had a very similar experience to you in out of respect to you, like you realize you needed the time. With me, I didn't. And I got sick. I got like a flu, and I had 4 or 5 days where I wasn't doing anything, just, with myself, but it helped me get back on track.
Yeah.
Take stock of where I am in my life, where I want to be, because we all have these 5 or 6 different things: our relationship with our spouse, our relationship with our kids, our health and well-being, our business, our finances, our family, our philanthropy. So we have these 5 or 6 things, and they're never going to be firing on all cylinders at once, because it's just impossible.
Yep.
Like as an entrepreneur that's running a massive business, you have to give everything to that. So how could you balance that along with all the other things? But what I say, that the real balance is going from thing to thing to thing to thing, and balancing it properly. It could be balanced, but not all at the same time.
Right. The multitasking, right?
Yeah.
As human
you just
beings,
can't do it at the
I don't
same
know
time.
what I was just reading, but it might have been a Bill Gates thing. But computers are meant to multitask. Human beings are not meant to multitask. So when we're multitasking, we're taking away the effectiveness that we could be putting into a single task, right? And it is such a challenge for all human beings now. I went out and bought a tablet. It's called Remarkable. And it basically is like a digital notepad that I can create multiple notebooks in it, but there's no apps on it. So there is nothing that is going to interrupt me. And I have to tell you, since I've started using it, it's like writing almost on paper. Since I've started using it, I'm drawing things, I'm writing things, I'm coming up with ideas, and it's like nothing is beeping or bleeping. Like, I actually put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I sit on the couch on a Saturday morning, drinking my coffee, playing around with this thing, and ideas just flow. It is amazing what happens when you are, to your point, hopefully you can do it without getting the flu. You are on your own without the interruptions, with a piece of paper and a pen and just brainstorming. I have nothing to do with Remarkable, not a paid ad, but I have to say, game-changing device in terms of just being able to think without interruptions.
Yeah, and it's great. And what I love about this whole conversation is I think you and I are showing other individuals that it's not about being perfect.
Yeah.
It's not about doing everything right. It's about realizing your idiosyncrasies, the things you need to work on, getting better, and still doing it in spite of that, in spite of working on these things. So any individuals that are out there that want to go out and do something for yourself, whether it's a new job, start a new business, get in a new relationship, get in better health, you don't have to be perfect. Just start today and start moving forward, and realize that along the way, there'll be ups and downs, there'll be roadblocks along the way, but it's just going to be about your ability to persevere and keep stepping forward and moving forward.
Yeah.
I mean, done is better than perfect, right?
Yeah.
Done, just doing what you need to do each day after day, is better than trying to be a perfectionist and do it great. And it's great to have this conversation because I think we have a lot of similarities in our thinking and our thoughts. And
just to add to that point, own your imperfections. We talked about this at the beginning, right? We learn the most from watching other people's mistakes. We make our own mistakes. We have our own imperfections. Own them. Make something of them. Don't use them as a crutch. Use them as your competitive advantage. Right?
Embrace it, and that's what the best do.
That's it.
If I look at the greatest athletes, you look at Kobe Bryant, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, they take their imperfections. Maybe Tiger not as much in the last little bit, but
but they work on it, right?
But he's now in a place where he's utilizing that, right? And taking their imperfections and embracing it.
Yeah.
Because if you can't embrace it, it's going to control you.
Yeah.
What you can't be with owns you.
Yeah.
Think about it logically, right? Like what you can't be with about yourself, it's going to own you and control you.
100%.
Whereas if you can embrace it and be okay with it, like, hey, this is who I am, you're now owning it.
Yeah.
For your advantage, right? To utilize in a way that's going to help you get the win you want.
I think athletes are the perfect example for all people to strive to be, because an athlete, they might have an inherent skill, but whether it was Kobe or whatever athlete it was, they get up at the same time every morning. They were practicing the same number of hours every day. They're watching footage of how they play so that they can improve upon it. So they don't become these amazing athletes as a result of, I woke up this morning and I'm this amazing athlete. Yeah, maybe they have some natural ability, no doubt. But that natural ability is only enhanced by really, really working hard and being disciplined. Yeah. So realizing that nobody is perfect, to your point, and coming as close to perfection for yourself takes a lot of hard work and doesn't come easily for anyone.
Yeah. They dominate in the fundamentals.
Yeah.
So they have the fundamentals, the things that make them who they are.
Yeah.
With me and my business, it's seeing people, having great relationships, focusing on the best interests and well-being of my clients. But it's focusing on that day in and day out and really working on the fundamentals.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot to learn for sure.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you coming on today. I always end the podcast with this question because it's a personal one for me in my line of work, and it's always important for me. You've obviously given a lot to this world, to your kids, to your family, to other individuals in the world. What do you want your legacy to be?
I think it would be exactly what my dad told me. I want to know that I have had a positive impact on the lives of the people around me, and that I've left a good number of them better than they were before they knew me. That's it.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Sharon, so much for coming on.
Thank you. This was great. I really appreciate it.
I really enjoyed this conversation thoroughly. We might have to do another one.
Okay.
But I really enjoyed it. For our viewers, thank you so much for tuning in. Any questions or comments you have to myself or Sharon, please direct them to us. I always love feedback. I so appreciate your support and your commentary, any questions, comments, anything you can provide. And thank you for tuning in. Very, very grateful for your support in the First in Class podcast. Thank you.